The people who were staring in amazement at the crown prince's astonishing change suddenly regained consciousness upon hearing Belissa's feigned cough. The female employees blinked, and Lucette nodded toward the door. The female employees understood the signal and quickly began arranging things and leaving the room. They could have stayed here. When the door closed quietly, Aleisha wore an embarrassed expression. Speaking to her, Franz whispered in an affected tone. "Do you hate being alone with me?" "Of course not." "Then let me have you." Franz kissed Aleisha's eyes lightly. He stroked her hair with the back of his hand with a fascinated expression. "You're so beautiful, Liz." The dress, which narrowed at the upper torso and flared with a billowy skirt at the waist, was similar to her wedding dress but much more luxurious. It suited Aleisha better. "Thanks." Aleisha's cheeks flushed pink at Franz's compliment. She cupped her cheeks lightly and smiled. "You also look handsome, Franz." At Aleisha's praise, Franz put his hand to his mouth and coughed lightly. He hid his embarrassment and offered her the box he was carrying under his arm. "I don't think there's a way to be prettier, but maybe this will help." "What is this?" Aleisha's eyes widened and looked at Franz. He smiled gently and opened the box. Inside, there was a sparkling diamond necklace and earrings set. The necklace and earrings, which seemed to be woven from halos of light, were too dazzling to look at directly. "I prepared it for you." Aleisha opened her mouth slightly. Although she was not greedy for jewelry, these were tempting even for her. "How long have you prepared this?" "Since you decided to forgive me." Franz gently placed the box on Aleisha's hand. When she grabbed the box, he took out the necklace and earrings. His fingers caressed her neck, then he hung the necklace above her collarbone. The necklace wrapped around her neck seamlessly as if it had been made especially for her. Aleisha looked in the mirror and caressed the necklace. The necklace, with a thick V shape, was designed with diamonds shaped like stacked petals. It was not as exaggerated as the Empress's necklace, but rather delicate and bright. "It's so cool." "I'm glad you like it." Franz wore a reassuring expression and hung the earrings on her ears. The diamond earrings, an upside-down triangle shape like a grapevine, accentuated her slender face even more. Finally, her look was complete for the Crown Prince's inauguration ceremony. Aleisha looked at her reflection in the mirror and smiled happily. "I love her so much." Franz smiled gently as he faced her. When he wrapped his thick arms around her, Aleisha naturally surrendered to his embrace. "If you need anything else, tell me. I will prepare it for you." "I don't need anything, but I have a question." "Talk." At Franz's answer, Aleisha placed her hand on his chest. She tilted her head to look at him and furrowed her eyebrows. "Why were you constantly having seizures?" "It wasn't even a month after you neutralized Manak that you were having seizures again." "Does this mean the neutralization isn't working?" Aleisha felt very worried. Even though Franz told her not to worry, she couldn't help but do so. He used his heart as an offering to exhaust his mana in a spell. If he had gone back in time, his mana should have returned to normal. But he sometimes struggled to control his mana. He even had frequent seizures. It seemed that neutralizing Aleisha was not effective for him after returning. Didn't the neutralization effect in front of the Empress last less than a month? If mana neutralization doesn't work, it's very dangerous. Actually, I consulted Aaron. Aaron? Aleisha's eyes widened. A few days ago, she saw Aaron when she went to visit the sick emperor. He was standing next to the emperor who was still unable to get out of bed. Aleisha glanced at him quickly and greeted the emperor. Aaron looked at her with an embarrassed expression as she spoke with the emperor. Later, Franz tells her that the great wizard bringing back the emperor's mana stone is Aaron. But Aleisha was not surprised. She nodded quietly. Because she vaguely guessed it. Otherwise, his strange actions wouldn't make sense. Even if he learned magic, An ordinary person could not appear and disappear in the shadows as easily as he could breathe. Aaron was the one surprised by her reaction. He joked that he couldn't keep up with her. Even Her Majesty the Empress was a great lady like Her Highness the Princess. Aaron looked at Franz, who was standing next to Aleisha, as he said this. From their actions, Aleisha deduced that Aaron had a relationship with Franz's dead mother. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense for a great wizard to interfere in human affairs so deeply. Aleisha remembered Aaron's face, whose age was difficult to guess, and asked Franz. What did Aaron say? First, he was very angry about what I did. Franz shrugged calmly. Aleisha nodded in agreement with Aaron's opinion. This deserves anger. Well, here's a chance. Aleisha extended her little finger to Franz. But he kissed her finger lightly and just smiled. Aleisha frowned at his behavior. You won't come back? If it was to save you, I would do it again. Franz. So, in order to keep me alive for a long time, you must live happy for a long time. Aleisha sighed at his words. She placed her hand on her forehead and let out a soft moan. This man is truly uncontrollable. It seems that she will spend her whole life loving him and receiving his love. Okay. So, what did Aaron say? Aleisha lowered her hand and asked. Franz looked at her steadily and opened his mouth. He said that the mana was unstable at the beginning of the return, so there was no choice. It is the price of defying the natural flow, and patience is the best solution. If I had not endured this pain, I would have had to pay a greater price later. So neither neutering nor medications worked. Yes. She's not completely stable now, but she's calmed down a lot compared to when she started back. But he said I need regular checkups with him. Then there will be no danger? As long as you don't reject or abandon me. Franz kissed Aleisha's forehead. When I looked at him with wide eyes, he added with a laugh. He said I would be fine as long as my soul link didn't reject me or abandon me. Ah, Aleisha finally felt relieved. Franz smiled deeply as he looked at her and she let out a light sigh. You have to take responsibility for me, Liz. I can't live without you. His golden eyes, as if melted from gold, looked at Aleisha radiantly. Aleisha caught his gaze and smiled happily. She took his hand and said, I will take responsibility, for life. The inauguration ceremony of the Crown Prince was held in grandeur. Golden eagle flags, the symbol of the imperial family, fluttered throughout the palace. Aleisha was amazed by the incomparable luxury of her wedding. With the ensuing feast and painting session, the day was indeed long. If Franz had not been by her side, she would have wanted to escape boredom. All those long procedures are over. From today, Franz officially becomes the Crown Prince of the Loran Empire. Aleisha, his wife, became the Crown Princess. Aleisha looked around the bedroom of the Crown Prince's palace. A warm fire was burning in the room, and a black veil covered the sky outside the window. When she was in the second prince's palace, she slept in a separate room from Franz, but in the Crown Prince's palace, they decided to share the same bedroom. So she was waiting for Franz, feeling a little embarrassed. You could have slept first. Franz came out of the bathroom connected to the room and looked at her with a slightly surprised expression. He put his knee on the bed and kissed Aleisha. There was a soft rubbing sound of their lips, and a hot breath escaped between her teeth. I said I would take responsibility for you today. So I've been waiting. At Aleisha's answer, Franz's eyes curved gently. He climbed into the bed completely and hugged her warmly. Not just today, you will bear my responsibility for the rest of my life. His voice, pretending to be calm, was full of heat. Aleisha felt a pain in her chest. Even after everything settled down, Franz had an emotional side. Good. Aleisha nodded. She kissed him whispering. I will bear the responsibility for life. At Aleisha's answer, Franz smiled happily. She opened her arms to him. I love you. The word was now very familiar and tickled her ears. Aleisha responded with the same confession. I love you, too. Even after more brutal nights of death, and a second life, still. Perhaps even deeper than ever before. I love you, and I will be with you. At Aleisha's answer, Franz smiled deeply. His cold hand caressed her face. Aleisha closed her eyes as she felt his touch. The night began warm and happy. A night of happiness that will last forever.